Hey everyone, it's Ivan, kitbatch.com, out here to tell you about my experience with the High Desert Brutality 2023 shooting in the Irons Division. I shot the Irons Division on day one with the rest of kind of the staff match, so all 8 stages in one day. And we started out at the Casarda drill. Pretty fun. You basically run up, grab your weapon, get it charged, get your hit, take a kettlebell, throw it as far as you can, go get another hit from wherever it landed, and continue this until hopefully you don't par out. And then basically every stick, which is like a distance marker that you make it past, basically that is a deduction in your overall time. So pretty fun little stage running through that.
Nice. Oh.
One. Two.
Next event was pretty fun. There's kind of themes with High Desert Brutality, and this one was kind of like action movies basically. So stage 2 that we ended up going through was Red Dawn. You started out basically having to clear a number of like pistol poppers before finally dropping your mag and taking one last shot rather at a piece of steel. Again, that would clear your pistol out. And then at that point, run, get into the back of the truck, charge your rifle, hit the truck, start rolling. And basically paratroopers came. So trying to get out of town like Red Dawn style. So from the back of the truck, shoot, engage some of the different pieces of steel. There's one, and then as you move and kind of get far enough, you can turn and another piece of steel reveals itself and shoot at that one. And then finally, truck stops, clear your gun out, hop out, and get after it, the long shots. So 10.5 inch, 7.62 by 39 BRN with SCALAWORKS peak iron sights, shooting like 500 yards. That was the first target array, and not easy. Fortunately, the RO's there. They basically call spot for you, call your hits, also give you corrections if you need it, which I certainly did. And you basically work through these different positions and ultimately start shooting closer target arrays as you make it through. I ended up timing out. That gun did not lend itself to shooting that distance. I was like, wow, we're shooting pretty far, but it was fun. Second stage of the day, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Moving on from Red Dawn, we ended up going the next stage, which was the Wasteland. And so I've seen these guys, I think at Desert Brutality 2022 down in Utah. I ran into these guys, and cool guys, super into like the Wasteland theme, like a lot of time and energy put into some pretty cool like costumes basically. And they ended up basically running the stage, the Wasteland stage, and with that there were role players, which was really fun. I mean, the entire competition is about like an experience, and they definitely added to it. You ended up starting in this tent, more or less like chained up, and I say chained up, a big chain with basically a carabiner on there, locking carabiner. Take that off, get out of the tent, you go. One of them is like, hey, guys are coming, like shoot them. So again, working on pistol, basically having to clear some poppers and then a spinner. And spinners are hard. I'm pretty sure I timed it, or I didn't time out on that. I think I burned through like, if you get through 2 magazines or whatever it is, or even 3, it's like, okay, like time to move on. And yeah, did not get that spinner. And then you get your gun. They hand you basically a satchel. All your magazines are just thrown in this satchel, which also lends to storytelling and just kind of the experience. And then you have to drag this dummy. And so you're dragging this dummy back. They're firing like a round, like as you guys are retreating back. Get back behind cover, dig a magazine out of that satchel, charge it, and then you got to target at, I want to say 3, 4, and 500, like walking up the hill. So 1 round, I want to say, on each of those, and then clear your gun out, grab that dummy, drag them back, and basically kind of leapfrog back. And then time permitting, you end up getting to their vehicle, which pretty sweet van. Basically, you end up climbing in there, and then you need one hit on the 500 from there. And did not get it. I ended up timing out there, which was a bummer. I started just chucking rounds because I'm like, I know the time is almost over, but should probably just slow down, and got one good round, one good hit rather. But really fun stage, especially, yeah, I mean, with, yeah, essentially role players out there. It was really fun. Moving on to the fourth stage, pretty cool, basically a sniper tower. And you would end up going up this ladder, get up to the sniper platform, and there was, I want to say 5 different numbers, which corresponded with 5 different targets out there. And I want to say they range roughly from about 200 yards being more or less the closest, albeit kind of the smallest target, and then the furthest around maybe 400 yards or something like that. And so you started initially in the prone, and you would turn over a card. It would tell you 1 through 5. You would engage that one, and then you'd turn over the next one, find it, engage. And you'd basically work through those targets, and then ultimately end up going and shooting off of the railing. So instead of prone, you're now shooting off a railing, which again, try and get as stable as possible. Definitely making longer shots, and yeah, work through that. It was a pretty fun stage. Now it was actually time for an intermission, because when the initial email went out, the verbiage was something to the effect of like, hey, approximate round count for the match is this. So I'm like, oh, cool, like approximate round count. Like I'll just bring a couple boxes more than that, and I should be good. It wasn't like the number of hits in this match is this. So I read like approximate round count, think of like a shooting course, versus, hey, this is the approximate number of hits, which I'm not sure why it's approximate, probably because of spinners. So halfway through, like day 1, well, since I was shooting the entire match in one day, halfway through all of the matches, I'm like, there is no way this is happening with the ammo I have. And so I started calling around. Granted, this pumping range is out in the middle of nowhere. So I started calling around, found a place all the way in another state, Oregon, right across the border. And I'm like, hey guys, if my name comes up on this next stage, fortunately there was a squad in front of us. They were kind of slow. It's kind of a bottleneck. And I'm like, hey man, if my name comes up, like push me to the back, I need to go get ammo. So 7.62 by 39. Never mind, I had like 1 or 2 cases of it at home. I just didn't bring it because I was like, oh, approximate round count. I got this. No, not shooting irons and missing a lot at like 500 yards with irons in a 10.5 inch 7.62 by 39. So loaded up my boys, peanut, and quick little intermission, about probably almost an hour. Drove over, got a bunch of ammo. It was in like a feed supply store or something like that. Drove back, got after it for stage 5. Stage 5 was pretty fun. Basically started on kind of like a rooftop prop and engaging steel at distance. One piece of steel over off one side, and then the other side, I want to say about 300 yards. There were 2 pieces. Those were hard to see. And speaking of that, like depending on the time of day, like some of the steel was just really hard. It probably got painted, I don't know, 3 years ago, who knows what. But depending on what stage you were shooting, what time of the day, steel was really hard to see on some stages. But finally got those hits, hopped up, took off, and basically ran through this minivan. I'm like, I've done this before. Jammed the rifle back up, engage, I think 2 pieces of steel from through the minivan, and then over the hood, basically knock down a plate rack. After that, sit the gun, dump it, up and over a berm, and then something that's really fun, like just, it's fun, is there was a trench. So you run into the trench, get your gun out, charge it, and basically engage the steel as you see it, and then finally finish that whole kind of shooting evolution with a small piece of steel that you needed to knock off that like ended your time. And that was a ton of fun, especially that end part, like shooting through that trench. Really good time.
Our toil, resources, and livelihood are all involved. So is the very structure of our
Start taking
society.
instructions.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced powers exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberty or democratic rights.
That next stage was a ton of fun, in part because there were just a bunch of different elements. And part of the gear requirement, depending on the division, was like you will have a 4+ inch fixed blade knife, like as a combat loadout. So my division, Irons, did not have that requirement, but you definitely needed a knife. Fortunately, carrying my Northman X in the pocket sheath by MTech Blades. And it basically starts with, like, technically it starts with the blade out, probably because a lot of people carry their blades in places they cannot access them. But with my pocket sheath, basically I just had my thumbs in there, hooked my pinky on my puño, as I would, and on the buzzer, boom, blade comes out, stab the target, immediately grab your gun, go over, and get to shooting. There was 2 different steel targets, static, and then there was also a rifle spinner. That actually went over pretty easy for me with the 7.62 by 39. And once you do that, basically clear your gun out, run down this hill, or walk, but you're on the clock. Run down, pick up. They had, this whole stage was, I want to say, Metal Gear Solid, like Snake. And so they had a Mark 23 down there. Unfortunately, they did not have the can for it, but you had 1 shot to basically take the safety off, 1 shot for a bonus, I want to say at a popper, shoot that, ground it, climb under, and then you're basically in the shoot house and essentially working your way through. And that was pretty fun. There were definitely some no shoots in there. So you had a spinner at one point, which I finally got. I was really happy to do that with the pistol. And yeah, you basically work through a bunch of kind of low probability shots shooting through there. And that stage I ended up ultimately timing out. I didn't get all of them because, yeah, I just had a hard time at the end with low probability shots. Basically, there were plates blocking the plates you needed to hit, and yeah, ate my lunch, but it was still fun. The second to last stage might have been my favorite of the match. It was a ton of fun. Again, think action movies as far as kind of the overarching theme of all these, or video games, whatever it may be. Well, stage 7, I guess it would be, was Starship Troopers, which was awesome. One, I actually really enjoyed the book, which is definitely different from the movie, but I also really enjoyed the movie. And so it started out, you basically had a cannon with a tennis ball in there, and you had to shoot this thing trying to get it into like the bug nest, which, I think I actually got it, which was awesome. And then you immediately transition to your gun, charge it, engage one of the steel like bugs, and then you're off. So you start running, and then they actually had these cool like bug targets that they had set up, basically painted on cardboard, and you could either like central nervous shot in the middle, which was a clay pigeon, or put 5 rounds into it. So on the run, you're blasting these things, and then you get over to a tank trap, engage some more targets, and then ultimately run kind of to the end. And at the end, if you saw the movie, Rico's up there like on top of one of the giant bugs, blasting down into it, shooting it open, throws the grenade in there. So that was basically the shooting stage. You ended up, you had this IPSC target like in front of you, you're standing on top of this wobbly like little bridge like platform thing, and yeah, you essentially throw your grenade or shoot, throw your grenade. Pretty sure I did it out of order, but I missed my grenade toss probably would have blown myself up, but you get your rounds down in there, and then you come up and you finish on 2 pieces of steel at distance. But that whole like run and gun and everything, it was a lot of fun, and it was like one of the few stages where I'm like, oh, this weapon is not a hindrance here, because distance to targets. And yeah, no, that one was a blast. Then finally, stage 8. Again, another fun stage. Basically, you're starting next to this airplane fuselage, and you grab what's supposed to be a dummy. Essentially, it is a bunch of, I think, like fire hose with BDUs on it. By the time we got there, it was pretty ragged. But they ended up kind of rehabbing it for the rest of the actual like match, Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, last stage of the day when everyone went through all 8, it was beat up. But grab that thing, take it over to the first shooting position, engage an array of steel up on the hillside. For my own part, basically monopoded off of one of the like T-posts that was there, just because one, like in irons you can't, and I did not have like a bipod, and there's so much growth. I was like, man, if I get down low, I'll be lucky to even see those targets. So that let me stay up above all the weeds and everything, engage there, then drag that dummy over to the second firing position. Same thing, different target array, and then time to get after it. Basically run up this hill, engage all those steel again before shooting this one far steel, which I don't even remember, probably like 250 yards, something along those lines. And then safe the gun, clear it out, and switch over to pistol. At that point, there was a whole bank of targets over on one side and a bunch on the other. Not close, but yeah, get after it and yeah, see where you get.
Hit. Hit.
Across the board, I had an awesome time out there, and it was a lot of fun shooting in the irons division. I forget offhand standing here like where I kind of placed in there, but it was fun. Like, it was really fun. Definitely challenging, but it was fun, and I made it work. The match itself, it's just cool. Like, it's a bunch of stages based off of pop culture, movies, and video games. Like, what is not going to be fun with that? And yeah, no, I had a great time out there. I will say the match that I shot on Friday was a wildly different match from Saturday and Sunday, which is the main match. Granted, all the same 8 stages, but shooting with irons versus shooting with a SCAR 20 and 6.5 Creedmoor and a 3-18 versus a 10.5 inch 7.62 by 39. Completely different match. But if you want, you can check out the video on that, shooting in that class, partisan class I think it was. And yeah, pretty cool overall. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbatch.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.